I hope you enjoyed the first episode of the series UFO on the second annual Pilot Playhouse here on the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm your host, Ron Perlman. From outer space, we go to inner space. That's what submariners call the vast underwater universe beneath the ocean. The Sci-Fi Channel is proud to bring you the rarely seen, full-color version of the 1964 pilot for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the first adventure of the crew of the submarine Seaview. This episode is called 11 Hours to Zero, and it's a gripping tale of a race to prevent a polar earthquake from destroying much of the world. To complicate the rescue, the Seaview is being pursued by evil enemies, presumably evil communist enemies. Remember, this was during the height of the Cold War. Voyage was perhaps the longest-running sci-fi show in the history of TV. It featured cameos by Vincent Price, ventriloquist Edgar Bergen, Ed Asner, June Lockhart, Robert Duvall, all of whom found plausible reasons to drop in on a submarine on active duty. Watch closely in this pilot episode and you'll see Colonel Hogan's famous adversary, Werner Klemperer. And portraying the macho scientist, Dr. Wilson, is Eddie Albert, famous for such TV series as Switch and Green Acres. A little later, Eddie will share some insights about the making of this imaginative pilot. So get ready to dive, 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 as the Sci-Fi Channel takes you on this premiere voyage to the bottom of the sea. I'm Ron Perlman. Welcome back to Pilot Playhouse and the first episode of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, created by Irwin Allen. Recently, actor Eddie Albert recalled for us what it was like to work on this pilot with Irwin Allen.
He was a maniac, and he was very good. He tried everything, but he screamed all the time, and I think he was having more fun than we were. But he was a very good, very good director. He was fun to work with because he cared. He really wanted this to work.
And work it did. Irwin Allen went on to create Time Tunnel, Land of the Giants, and such memorable disaster movies as The Poseidon Adventure and The Towering Inferno. Now let's return to the pilot episode of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Welcome back to the Sci-Fi Channel's Pilot Playhouse. I'm your host, Ron Perlman. You're watching the riveting first episode of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. When Irwin Allen created this series 30 years ago, only 5 years had passed since the world's first nuclear sub, Nautilus, took a trip that echoes our story today. Nautilus voyaged almost 2,000 miles to the North Pole, staying submerged for nearly 96 hours, something the old diesel subs could never do. But the fictional Seaview has more remarkable features than even today's submarines, especially those big picture windows. No engineer has yet designed windows that can withstand the pressures of tons of seawater. The crews of modern nuclear subs are confined for months at a time without surfacing. It's a good thing the Seaview contains such a great bunch of guys. Let's rejoin their perilous mission in this first ever episode of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Welcome back to Pilot Playhouse. Fans of the soap opera Another World will recognize David Hedison, who plays the dashing Commander Lee Crane in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Originally, Hedison turned down the role as too one-dimensional, but when he heard that the Shakespearean-trained Richard Basehart would play Admiral Nelson, he quickly came on board. Basehart was one reason Eddie Albert agreed to play Dr. Wilson in this pilot. Albert had admired Basehart's work on Broadway.
He was splendid. He was very good. And when you have to work with a fine actor, there you don't want to take the money. It's too much of a joy.
Over the years, Voyage would challenge Basehart's acting skills in ways he probably never dreamed of, including one episode where he turned into a werewolf. Now let's return to the climax of the very first Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I'm Ron Perlman, your host for the Sci-Fi Channel's second annual Pilot Playhouse. We've just seen the pilot for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, a series that earned 2 Emmys for special effects chief L.B. Abbott. As storylines became more fantastic, Abbott's crew had to cook up all kinds of threatening creatures, including one sea monster that was half man and half lobster. Some effects cost a fortune. The full-size sea view cost over $400,000. It was actually a leftover from Irwin Allen's film Lost World.